Today's episode is brought to you by June Cashmere. It's more than just yarn. June Cashmere works directly with shepherd families in Kyrgyzstan to produce highest quality cashmere yarn. Manufactured with the maker in mind, theirs is a cashmere milled to last. Receive a free pattern when you join their community of makers at junecashmere.com. Thank you so much, June Cashmere. And now, here's the show. Welcome to episode 229 of the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals where you can strengthen your creative business, stay up to date on industry news, and build connections within our supportive trade association. Check it out at craftindustryalliance.org. Today on the show, we are talking about creating a lifestyle blog and brand with my guest, Brittany Watson Jepsen. Brittany is the founder and creative director of The House That Lars Built, an award-winning website focused on artful living and making. She's the author of Craft the Rainbow, and her work has been featured in the New York Times, CNN, Vogue, Martha Stewart, and more. She's the mother of Jasper and Felix and lives with her family in Provo, Utah. Brittany Watson Jepsen, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Yeah, it's exciting to talk to you. I've admired The House That Lars Built for many, many years, and it's basically like eye candy at all times is the way that I would think about it. It's always beautiful, always colorful and inspiring. And so I would love to sort of hear about how it all came to be and your vision for it. So let's kind of walk back a little bit. I know you were born and raised in California. Is that right?
That's right. So I was born and raised in California in a little beach town called Dana Point. And my grandparents lived in Los Angeles, so we would go up to commute to their house. And their house was such a inspiration to me growing up. They cultivated this lovely life, and even though they lived in Los Angeles, they had goats and like animals, and they had this really, really beautiful life that was so inspiring to me growing up. But also inspiring was, living by a beautiful beach, and I wasn't much of a beach goer. I was more of an insider, like making things inside or reading and things like that. So my mom was really encouraged us to make things all the time.
It sounds like your mom and your grandma were both creative people. And so it sounds, and you enjoyed the crafting and reading. Was like home decor or like decorating, that sort of thing, part of your life, or it sounds like maybe a part of your grandparents' life?
Yeah, absolutely a part of their life, and a huge part of my mom's life. My mom, she was an interior designer. She went to school for interior design and then practiced interior design. And then she started a shop called En Provence in Corona del Mar, Pacific Coast Highway. So it was like this beautiful location. And she really transformed this store into like a little slice of being in France. My uncle, he's an amazing artist, and he painted paintings and crafted furniture that she would sell in this shop. So she was so DIY. She would like put hay. I don't know. You know that technique where you put plaster on walls and put hay in it that they used to do in France or still do? I don't know. So she did that to the walls and like hand painted this decorative painting, and like even to the floor, it was a concrete floor, but she painted like faux rugs on it. And it was just like this really incredibly detailed. It took me to another place. Like I would beg to, I would pretend to be sick all the time so I could go with her to the store, and I would be sick in the back, eating Sprite or drinking Sprite and eating potato chips. But it was such an impressionable time, but I think it sunk into me. So learning about these techniques and seeing my mom so active and applying beauty in such a beautiful way was so inspiring to me, and it's really stuck with me over the years.
Yeah, and sounds like she was also a businesswoman. I mean, she had made a business out of her love of art and of decorating, which you have as well. So
yeah, and it's so funny because she did that while she had 4 kids, and she started it. I don't even remember how old I was. I think I was in kindergarten or something, and I was the oldest, so there were like 4 kids, 5 and under. And I'm like, that sounds like a torture device. Somehow she did it for 4 years before it just became too much to handle, even though it was doing really well. But yeah, I think I saw her go-getterness at that time. And I just thought, oh, that's just how you do it.
Right.
I guess you just go for things.
It just seems normal, when you're little, whatever your parents doing that's what parents do, so absolutely. So when you were in school, like in middle school and high school and things like that, were you taking art classes? Did you think you might want to be an artist, or did you have a different idea about your future?
Yeah, middle school, high school, not as much. I would take the art classes when offered. And I was really crafty at home, and especially middle school and younger. I don't know I think I was super focused. I did music. I played the cello, and I played tennis in high school. So I think my hobbies took me elsewhere. And I kind of regret that, because I wish I could have learned more and more techniques and more proper techniques. But when I went to college, I studied art history. And that for me was an amazing foundation to, learning how the history of where art comes from, who was doing it. I think it was just such a great foundation. But after college, I had an internship my last semester of college, and it was at an art museum in Washington, D.C. And I was working in the research center, and I was loving learning about all these artists. So it was at a museum called the National Museum of Women in the Arts. So every single woman artist that existed, I got to read about. And then finally I was like, what am I doing studying these artists? I need to be getting my hands dirty and making something. So I was feeling this itch to actually be doing it.
Okay, right. And did you go to college in DC as well? Is that why the internship was in DC?
No, I went to college in Utah.
Okay.
And I did it, from Washington, D.C. that last semester.
Yeah, that last semester. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you felt this itch to make things, but didn't have necessarily formal training, it sounds like, as an artist at that point. So what did you do to make that happen?
Yeah, I had taken, at college, I took a calligraphy class, and I took a drawing class, but it was really I needed to have done a lot more with it to really have it be a part of my life. And I wasn't spending that time. I was spending it doing other things. So when I was in Washington, D.C., I graduated, and then I stayed there and worked for a year, and I networked myself into a job at a large hotel company doing interior design. And I'm so embarrassed of the interview I have, that I had to get that job. It went something like, oh, my mom was an interior designer. I read interior design magazines all the time. And I'm I cringe at what my experience consisted of, because it wasn't personal experience. It was all secondhand. But somehow I got it, and it put me in this position where I was learning how to do it, and learning from other people. And I got exposed to colors and a design library of fabrics, and I got to meet vendors and how branding works, because it was Marriott hotels, and they had at the time a very specific color palette that they worked in. It was red, gold, and blue, and green, and bright colors, and you didn't stray from that. So I learned what goes together, scale of the patterns, and so it was really a crucial time, because I learned about that, but then my confidence also grew. And I don't know what came over me, but I just thought I was on top of the world. And I was like, I'm going to go to interior design school now and learn it properly. And so I did. I applied to some schools and decided to stay in Washington, D.C. to go to interior design school.
Wow. So where did you go for that? I don't even know where you go for interior design school.
So I went to Corcoran College of Art and Design, which is now a part of George Washington University.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So was it a good education? Did you feel like you got what you wanted?
So it was an interesting program because most people who went to it didn't. You had to take like a year of requirements before you could, or you would take like 3 years instead of 2 years. So a lot of people didn't have any experience like myself. So you would take that year of prereqs to gain your drawing skills and painting skills, like to draw interiors and color theory and all of that. And I think that program was really the effort you put into it is what you got out of it. So I was like, if I'm going to take out so many student loans for this, like it's insane how expensive it was. I'm going to go for it. So I was taking every class I wanted to. I was kind of working with the teachers to create what I wanted to focus on. I would do internships, programs. I was in this club, that club, this, like I needed to get the experience that to make it fully worth it to me. So I totally went for it.
Okay. And did you work as an interior designer after you graduated from that program and finally had like a credential and
So what's funny is that the first year, the first summer after that first year, I spent my whole spring break, so full week, like just applying for internships that summer. I mean, I was in this like basically windowless room, like just making my portfolio and submitting like resume after resume after resume. Basically cold calling people. And finally, I sent my resume and portfolio to Jonathan Adler in New York and Celery Kemble in New York, and they both said yes.
Wow.
And so I said yes to both of them. So that summer I interned for both of them that summer and like did three days at one and 2 days at another. And it was incredible. It was, I mean, I learned so much. One of them, I did interior design, and one of them I kind of focused more on product design, which I learned was more of an interest for me. So they gave me assignments that really helped me flourish. Like with Celery Kemble, she gave me, she was doing something with Tiffany and Co. So she let me like paint this hand painted plate that they actually turned into a collection of plates at Tiffany and Company. And it was like really amazing assignments that really helped me grow and were great portfolio pieces. And I couldn't have had a better experience.
That's so cool. Yeah, very cool to get in with like these incredible established designers and just see how their businesses work and get your hands dirty. That's so cool. So I know you spent some time in Copenhagen. Did you then get a job there?
Yeah, so the next summer I did a program. They have a program with the Danish Design School where you can like either study interior design or textile design or furniture design. And I did the textile design program, which was also very amazing. So I got to learn so many different techniques and worked with textile designers who designed for big fashion houses. So it was like a big eye-opening experience. And then we went on this tour of Scandinavia. We went to Sweden and Finland and Denmark and Norway and got to meet textile designers and see their workshops. And it was at this time that I started The House That Lars Built, which was a personal blog. I started it for a school project at school. And I kind of kept it up for portfolio purposes. And then I interned that same summer I was in Denmark. I interned for Design Sponge, if you remember.
Oh yeah,
Design Sponge, which was so like such a big important blog for I think everyone who was starting to discover what blogs were in the
and
2000s.
What was the school assignment that had you start a blog?
So they didn't have us start a blog, but it was called the Residential Interior Design class. And I chose to start a blog because it's when design blogs were starting to come out. And I had learned about them at Jonathan Adler. Someone was like, oh, have you heard of Design Sponge? And I was like, no, I haven't.
Right.
So it was like, I mean, I was like 26 or something. So it was like so impressionable. I wanted to be a part of it, but I didn't know how to start. So I started a blog for my fictitious clients I was designing a house for. So, and I named the dad Lars because my dad, his name is Bob, but his alias name is Lars. Like when we would go to restaurants, he would put his name as Lars, and we would think it was like the funniest thing. So I named it the house that Lars built because he was building this house, and every person in the family represented something that I wanted to be in the house, like music and fashion and interior design. So, and so that's what I focused my blog on. So I would put the floor plans I was working on for the family on there, or the specific finishes that the bedroom would have, or the son would have, or the daughter would have. And so I would kind of collect. It was like my Pinterest before Pinterest started, because this was like 2008. So I would put on things that inspired me or inspired the family, like, oh, their living room's going to look like this. And then I would take photos off of who knows what sites, like no crediting. Like I didn't know the wild, wild west. So I kept it up and like started blogging every day, just as things that inspired me or things I was working on at school. And like I mentioned it, when I went to Scandinavia, I had this column on Design Sponge called Copenhagen Correspondent. So I would interview designers in their workspaces and take pictures and report about what I was seeing while I was visiting.
That's so cool. So, they say that you should do what you love as though it were your job, and then it will become your job. And it's so funny that you were like, well, I don't have any clients, so I'll make up a fictitious client and then decorate for them as though they were real, in the hopes that I'll have a client at some point, something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're giving me a lot of credit. That's not how I was approaching it at the time. But now I see that that's a good idea. But yeah, I think having this, like a client who I could design for was so much easier than just like design for nobody. You know, I needed a personality. I needed to tell a story. So I had like, I mean, if you go, actually, I think I deleted the articles on my blog, but I had like meet Lars, and then I had a picture of Lars, and then I talked about who he was, and like as if I was an actor and had a backstory, you know, like I would have this full story of their decisions in life, where they came from, and same with each character in the family. So yeah, I guess that was the smart thing to do.
Yeah, I think it was. So you met your husband, right, when you were in Copenhagen, and then eventually the two of you moved back to the U.S.
Yeah, so that summer I met Paul. Like the last 3 weeks I was there, and we just he took me on these amazing dates, like went to the Royal Danish Ballet, and we went kayaking on the canals of Copenhagen, and we went to lovely restaurants, and it was amazing. But I still had a year left of school in Washington, D.C. So I went back, and then we long distance dated for about a year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then where did you end up settling? Did you go to back to Utah?
So we got married in California, where I'm from. And then we moved to Copenhagen. Oh. So I joined him in Denmark, where his whole family lives, and in Copenhagen so we were there for about 3 years.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I couldn't work for a while they were processing my papers. So like you said, you work for the job you want. So because I couldn't work there, I worked on my blog as if it was my job. And at this time, like people still weren't getting paid to blog, really, that I knew of, or it wasn't like a goal, like, oh, one day I'll be a huge blogger, because nobody really was. So I worked at it, but because I loved it. So I would explore Copenhagen by day, and then at night I would just like work on what I was working on. And I started doing crafts because our wedding, we did this really DIY wedding with my mom and my sister. We made these oversized paper flowers, and everything had a DIY component. I painted tablecloths and made banners, and we did so many. When Paul came from Denmark for our wedding, he had no idea what we were doing, and he came in, and our house was literally like floor to ceiling paper flowers, and he had no clue what he was getting himself into. If he didn't know then, like he knows now. But
I want to take a minute now to talk about our sponsor, June Cashmere. June Cashmere takes pride in offering sustainably, ethically, and transparently produced cashmere yarn in 2 weights, fingering and DK, available in 16 rich colors. Working directly with shepherds in Kyrgyzstan, June Cashmere pays shepherds fair market value and above for their fiber, and then guides the production of the fiber into highest quality cashmere yarn. Milled in Great Britain in the British tradition, June Cashmere's yarn produces exquisite stitch definition and drape for garments and accessories that hold their shape. Since only the longest, most uniform fibers are used to create their yarn, you can expect very little pilling over time. June Cashmere is committed to excellent customer service and to building a community of makers. Join them for their Knitting Together meetup via Zoom on the 2nd and 4th Sundays of each month from 4 to 5 Eastern. Find the Zoom link on junecashmere.com. When you join their community, you'll be the first to know of events, classes, and specials, as well as receive information on life in Kyrgyzstan and tips for makers. June Cashmere wants makers to experience success in knitting, so watch for their upcoming knit-alongs and classes on choosing a sweater pattern you'll wear and love and making a sweater that fits. With the holidays approaching, put meaning, purpose, and luxury into your gifting with a gift from June Cashmere. Choose from their selection of garment, colorwork, or one-skein kits bundled at a savings to you. Consider their specially curated holiday gift package of beautifully made items meant for makers and non-makers alike, sourced from other socially minded companies. A gift of their limited edition mini skein bundles called Kids will make any maker swoon. Ready-made cashmere scarves offer luxury to be worn and worn, or simply opt for the gift of choice with a June Cashmere gift card. At June Cashmere, they say it's more than yarn. It's about shepherd families in Kyrgyzstan, producing a yarn worthy of makers, and caring for their community. Join them in their journey, won't you? As a special offer to podcast listeners, enjoy $5 off any $75 or more purchase through the end of December 2022 with the code CIA. Purchases of $75 or more ship for free within the United States. Thank you so much, June Cashmere. And now back to my conversation with Brittany.
So yeah, the wedding. So people started asking, because it was this time wedding blogs were getting big, and Pinterest had come out by this point. So the wedding kind of went bananas, and people were asking how did you make those paper flowers? So I started to share, and that was like the first like viral project that I made. Even though I didn't know it, because I didn't know how to read analytics at that time. It took me like years to know, like, oh, this project's doing really well. That's why people are coming to my site. So I started contributing for wedding blogs and other craft blogs. And that's kind of how it took off.
And those flowers were eye-catching and popular because they were colorful, but also the scale was really large. Is that the reason?
Yeah. So you can see my hands like gesticulating how big they were. It was probably like 18 or 24 inches of just one blossom on the center of each table.
Okay.
And then we had, we had them all around. It was like a garden, wedding. So they were all around the garden. So I hadn't seen oversized paper flowers in that type of setting before. I had the Spark was a J. Crew catalog that they had. The model had this beautiful like oversized silk flower in it, and I was like, Mom, we got to do huge oversized paper flowers. So we figured out how to make them, and that's kind of how it started.
And were they made from crepe paper?
They were made from like a pastel paper.
Okay.
Like with like that texture on it. So like a Canson pastel paper.
Okay. All right. Wow. That's cool. So that was the first kind of DIY project that entered into the house that Lars built and started to take off. And so I would mark that as kind of a turning point in your idea of what the blog was. Can you identify other turning points or other things that happened in the blog's life that you were like, oh, wow, that caught on in a major way and really, changed the game for me?
About a year later, Prince William was getting married to Kate. And when I was young, I thought I was going to marry Prince William. I had magazines. I was ready for it. But alas, it didn't happen. So I was like, if I'm not the bride, I'm going to make souvenirs to celebrate this wedding. So I went, at the time I was super inspired by like Natalie Latay's beautiful plates from Anthropology. They're still there. She still comes out with new designs, but like beautiful hand painted ceramic plates. And I wanted to figure out how to make it. So I started calling like manufacturers all across the world. They're doing so much homework on it. I was calling India and Thailand, like all these places, and finally found a manufacturer in England, which was a little more doable because of the distance and timeline. So I hand painted some plates and got them manufactured and started selling them on a new Etsy site. And made mugs, and I made a processional map it was letterpress map that I sold of like the wedding route that they were going to take. And that went bananas. So because Etsy was still kind of starting and it's like the heyday it went like it got featured all around the world. Like, oh, here's some royal wedding souvenirs. And it would be on every list. It got onto every magazine and every newspaper. And I was stunned. And it was great. So we were so close that we flew over to London for the wedding, and I had made a paper flower head topper. So I sported this like big, okay, again, I'm showing you, it's like, 15 inches on top of my head, paper flower. And I wore it around town during the day. And my friend did too, who lives in London. So we were both wearing them. And she's an amazing salesperson. And she was selling like, oh, have you seen this mug? And she put them in stores. And she rented us a booth on Portobello Road during the weekend of the royal wedding. So I sold them there and they sold out. And so it's this wild story that I didn't have any intention of like keeping up a royal wedding shop. So I kind of stopped, but then it kind of flowed into more opportunities from there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, once something like that happens and you've kind of struck gold twice in different ways, but through hard work and, really creative ideas that are different from what other people are doing, I would assume at that point you start to look at your blog in a new way or look at your business or brand in a new way because, people have gone, they've seen that, maybe they've bought it, and now they kind of come back and they're like, what else is here, right? And there's a new kind of pressure to perform or create after that.
Yeah, and I think I was a really slow learner. Had it been now, I would have been like, oh, we're having our next collection of stuff. And I like hand painted these oven mitts. I really like kitchen accessories, even though I hate to cook. I don't know. So I came out with a hand painted calendar and these oven mitts, and those did really well too. But I didn't know how to necessarily channel that into more products, like, because it wasn't my, I didn't make a business plan. Like, it wasn't like something I was aiming to do. Again, if I had done it now, I would have done it a lot differently. I would have just kept the momentum going. But what it did was, it introduced me, like Liberty of London was like, oh, hey, can you show us more things? So I flew to London and showed them more things. And my handmade paper flowers got sold at Terrain, who's owned by Urban Outfitters. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I later did a licensing with a dinnerware company, and they still have it. It's called Twig New York. So I did 3 dinnerware collections. And it like, honestly, I was so slow on the uptake that it was like, oh, you're interested? Oh, let me figure this out. But all the money that I had earned from the royal wedding, I went to pay off my student loans rather than investing into the business, which would have been a bigger payout ultimately. But I'm not a natural business person. And so it was like, I didn't quite know. Had I had this resource like your podcast and, other things, I think I would have done it a lot differently.
And were there opportunities that you pursued because somebody reached out after seeing you got all this publicity in these different ways? And it sounds like these companies like Liberty and Terrain, et cetera, they start to contact you and say, we love this look. Can you do more or show us more? But were there ones that kind of, came your way and then just really weren't the right thing and just, you know what I mean? Were kind of like a false start, or you felt like, oh gosh, that was awful and painful. I won't do it again, Oh,
I'm sure there are. So, there's some heartbreaks too, right? So Vivian Westwood reached out and wanted a paper flower, like a big paper flower to potentially do their window displays. And I was over the moon. But I could not figure out how to transport. I was in Denmark at the time, and you couldn't just go online and order a box. Like, I didn't know how to navigate the system there. So I broke the flower in half, and I was like, glue it when you get back together. And I sent it in this box. And they never contacted me again. So I never heard back. And then I mentioned Liberty, I flew to meet with their buyer, but it fizzled from there. So I think it was just exciting to be like, oh, they're interested, but they didn't I didn't have anything new really at that time. So it was a lost opportunity. Again, had I known, I needed to follow up on the royal wedding and do more products, or what products are you interested in, and have a good range of products. I think that would have been smart.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, no, I think it's helpful to hear because, from the outside, it can appear like you go from success to success. And, I know that from the inside, that's just never true. There's always these opportunities that either you messed it up or they just changed their mind or whatever. And I think it's comforting for folks to hear that's the reality of how this works. And,
Right. Well, even I also mentioned Terrain, and I developed this technique of paper flower that was just not sturdy enough. It was I'm pretty sure they never mentioned anything, but I'm pretty sure the leaves just fell off. I'm horrified at they bought them, so that's cool, but I'm horrified thinking of the craftsmanship, there's no way. I didn't even spend enough time really developing my true style to know how to give them something that's solid. So while it was an amazing opportunity and they bought this very large order for me, I didn't get a follow-up order, but they did they did end up buying my calendar or some note cards. I can't remember now, but so there was a follow-up order, but not for paper flowers. But if I had done it like really incredibly well, there probably would have been a follow-up order.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I had similar things happen to me, and I think other people, it's very relatable. So appreciate you sharing some of that vulnerability there, with some things that didn't quite work so well. So my guess is that when Instagram, you talked about Pinterest and the way that Pinterest helped your wedding photos really get, a lot of traction. But when Instagram, came on the scene, you're great at Instagram, and it seems like would have been a really natural fit. So I don't know if you have thoughts about the early days of Instagram or also maybe your Instagram strategy now where you have, a huge following there and really use that platform well.
Again, I'm a very slow learner. I did not view Instagram as this great opportunity to showcase my work at the time. And I've since deleted a lot of the ones from the early days because it was like, oh, I'm in San Francisco. Here's a really cool light post, or here. And here's like a ton of filters on it. And you can hardly see what the actual colors were. So I fell victim to all of that. Maybe like some of you out there too. And it even took me a long time to figure out that I was going to be doing the house that Lars built for a living. So I didn't have a brand. I didn't have like, what is the house that Lars built? What's the aesthetic of it? What are the colors? What are the words that describe it? Because I think if I had that long-term vision, I would have approached it differently. But I think over time, and we know that the landscape of Instagram started out like this, like started very right? Instantaneous, like here's the picture. And then it grew into like a really professional way. And that was really fun too, because I was making lots of projects. And then I think one project that stands out is one day I was like, I want to do something fun, like a creative challenge on Instagram. So I posted a picture of some craft supplies. I think it was my crepe papers in a rainbow order. I was like, here's some pretty craft supplies in rainbow order. And I called it Craft the Rainbow. And I was like, oh, you know what? While I'm doing this, let's do 30 of these every day for a month and see how it goes. So every day for the month, I did a new craft supply in rainbow order, and it went bananas. Again,
everybody loves craft supplies, and everybody loves a rainbow. So it's a natural. I mean, it's just luscious. You just love, looking at
You want that structure.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, so I started, putting that, and that was really fun, and it kind of like spiraled from there and it grew. And then the next year I did a project called Dress the Rainbow, where I would dress in like all blue and stand against a blue background and invite somebody else to come in the photo with me. And so it started out with pink, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So we did that for 60 days, which was crazy. So that was Dress the Rainbow. And so because of that first project, Craft the Rainbow, and how it kind of spiraled from there, I ended up focusing, I got a book offer, not necessarily for that, but that's what it turned into after that.
Okay. Yeah. And that's with Abrams. So, did they reach out to you? Was Melanie Fallick still there? I don't actually know. No, she wasn't.
No, she was not at that time.
Okay. So it sounds like they reached out to you to do a book, and initially it maybe was a different idea or you weren't sure what the idea would be.
Yeah, it was like, do you have what type of book would you like to do? And it was like, oh, shoot. And I still hadn't really like nailed down what exactly is the house that Lars built? Like, what's his brand? So I think there was a lot of discovering that I was doing at this time. So one of the days was Craft the Rainbow. One of them was a book about paper flowers. I gave so many, I got an agent where I could like kind of talk through some things.
Yeah.
And there had already been a couple paper flower books that had already come out at that time. And so she was like, maybe focus on something else, which I'm kind of bummed at because there were many that came out afterwards too. That,
right.
I would have loved to have tried it. But anyway, so I decided to focus on Craft the Rainbow. And it was really a fun project because I got to shape like this rainbow experience. Like, I think I have one here. where like as you're flipping through, you see the pages turn from red to orange to yellow. I wanted you to very clearly see the pages so you could see that rainbow from the outside. And then Abrams was so wonderful to work with because they were so detail oriented. Like there's a little gold thread at the top, and then I got to really take my time. And photography is very important to me, so I got to work with my friend Shantae Vaughn, who is an absolute genius photographer who lives in New York, and she made those images come to life. And her lighting's incredible, and it was really a dream project. But also a nightmare project.
What was a nightmare about it?
I think I didn't quite anticipate, like, I'd never done a book before. I didn't know what type of structure, time frame. Like, I knew overall, like, oh, it's due in a year, but I didn't know. I don't know if I'm the only one, like, creative out there who's like, I don't know how to structure my time.
Yeah, no, you're definitely not the only one. And writing a book, you know, what I found with that is they don't really give you like a breakdown of like, okay, yeah, it's due in a year. That means if we need 20 projects, you need to finish a project, you know, every 2.5 weeks for the next year or whatever it is. You know, they don't kind of break that down. And then they don't just email you every 2.5 weeks and be like, did you do it? Let's see it. Okay, next one. Like, you know, it's just like, go ahead. Like, they just let you go.
Yeah, like time is so nebulous in my mind. And she gave me, my editor was Shauna Mullins, and she gave me this like book map, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But like, I don't know, it wasn't quite the time that I needed. So like, had I thought like, I did 40 projects. So like, they thought of it in that way.
Right.
It would have been a lot smarter. And I really kicked it into high gear. It was due in February, and I kicked it into high gear in like October, which was not enough time.
Yeah.
Like,
it's brutal. It's hard.
It was so brutal. And then my friend Shantae flew out for 2 weeks or 10 days to photograph everything in 10 days. And it was, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you the headache it was. Like, there were nights I slept at my studio, and it was just like so many people on board. So many wonderful people came to help. So it was like this true community experience, but also like I have so much trauma from it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Probably self-made trauma because I didn't know how to structure my time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so after that book came out, I mean, you know, I think that there's an argument to be made today in, you know, 2022, almost 2023, that, you know, you could self-publish, or why go with a publisher? You know, maybe it's not worth doing, and maybe it's never going to pay, you know, you what it was worth or whatever. But there is still, I think, a lot of cachet that comes with having a book published by a mainstream publisher. Plus, the experience of working with their team is also really instructive for you as an independent maker working alone most of the time. So I don't know if you felt like there was a sort of sense of legitimacy or something like that was lent to your business after the book came out, or if it changed your perspective in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the legitimacy was important because I started out as a blogger, right? Even though I had like legit education and I had legit work experience, but to the public, nobody knew that. I was just someone who was releasing DIY tutorials online. So I think there was an importance to me to have like a stamp of approval almost, you know, like, oh, this publisher wants to, and I love the books they were doing. And I knew it would be a beautiful book. And that was my main goal, was to create a really beautiful craft book. And so, yeah, I was expecting it. Do you remember the book Julie and Julia?
Oh, yeah.
With Julia Child. I was expecting this romantic, like, editor, author experience where we like come together and what's this book going to be about? And so I was surprised when she was like, okay, do your thing, and then come and present me with the findings after. So I wasn't quite like the relationship I was expecting. But I think that's how all books are mostly. So, but she would give feedback on, like how doable it was, or can everybody find these craft supplies? Or, there were like some logistic questions, and even figuring out how long the book should be, or what exactly the book should look like with their book designer. So there were some things afterward once I turned it in, but it was a little bit different than I thought it was going to be.
And, I wonder about blogging. As you said, you started out as a blogger, and you've kept your blog, going all of this time, even when Instagram, I think probably the pull of Instagram can feel like that's the place. But, I think as some of these social media giants start to run into trouble maybe, or at least prove frustrating at times, the blog is still very much a vibrant publishing platform, even though it's been so long now, over 15 years. So what is your perspective, I guess, on blogging now and the future of blogging?
Well, DIY blogging, I think the nature of it is that there needs to be somewhere to hold the information. There needs to be a place to have the tutorial or to keep the template. And we started selling our templates on the shop. We made a shop to start selling them, because we had been providing free templates for so many years. And finally we're like, oh, we just need to monetize that. So we started doing that. But yeah, like you need a place to go and find these tutorials, or to have a search word, to not just on Instagram where you scroll, like how far back can you scroll to find, hopefully you finding something. So it's not, Instagram's fun when, for like a true influencer who's taking pictures of themselves, and maybe you're monetizing that, but, because we also have resources, we still need our website. So, but as far as the future goes, I think there still is a place for websites. I do think that the day of personal blogging, as I miss it so much, where it was a little less, streamlined and super fun and casual. Like people aren't coming for those casual experiences to blogs. They're definitely staying on Instagram or TikTok. And I cannot wrap my mind around getting onto another platform and having to invest my time there like TikTok. So I guess that shows my age and willingness. But I think there's always a place for websites and blogs, especially when resources are needed. So if you've got a resource for embroidering or sewing, like there is definitely a place for you on a website.
And who is on your team now? Because I get the sense that instead of it just being Brittany, it's now we are making these decisions and building a shop and, figuring out the brand and and different partnership opportunities. And we can talk next about one you have coming up on TV potentially. But who's like making up the house that Lars built as a company now?
Yeah, so the timeline kind of started. I went full time in 2013, and then I got I've had my first employee in 2014. I got a business partner in 2015 who really put structure into place. Systems and structure, timelines. So she was super crucial for that and monetizing things more. And then we got someone to help make the projects, somebody to do the newsletter. And so now in 2022, I have a team of 6. So I have a photographer, videographer, who is also our shop manager, who is also our studio manager. So they wear many hats. I have an accountant, a part-time accountant, and then I have a part-time studio assistant who helps with craft projects sometimes, or runs errands and cleans up, gets the photo shoots ready. And then we have a maker, who makes the projects and who's also our content editor, who writes the blog posts. And then we have a designer who we do licensing with companies. So we're coming out with a swimsuit line, a planner line. And so she's the one working on that. And then we have a project manager. But this is a funny time for me because about 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh my gosh, and I've been thinking about this for a while and I haven't really told anybody yet, but I've just been feeling this, like I spend my time managing a team.
I was just going to say, now you're the CEO.
And like I've mentioned, I'm not very, like, business is not super an interest for me. I'm not like reading business books in my downtime. I'm not listening to business podcasts. Like it's just not my interest. And so here I am, like leading a business over a pandemic, a potential recession. Like the things I'm spending my time on are not how I would prefer to spend my time on. So recently in the last 2 weeks, I was like, you know what, things have got to change. And so things are changing right now. I was like, I love my team. Like my team, like I cry thinking about losing them, but I'm encouraging them to find new jobs right now. And they have, I'm going to keep, a couple because I still need some help and because we have so much going on still, but, we're just going to restructure how we use their time.
I sometimes think that, what can happen, and you're not alone in this, when you have a successful aesthetic and brand and things like that, and you start to hire, and then you end up just behind the computer and managing people all day long. And I sometimes think, well, maybe the better thing to do is hire a CEO, like hire a professional CEO. And you remain creative director and owner of the business, but the CEO is running the business and you get to do the things that only you can do, so it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think that's what I was trying to do when I brought on my business partner. But then I think it's tricky for me, and I'd love to talk with other people about this because my blog and my brand is so connected to me that I was really having a tough time with separating it, or like I wanted her to make all the business decisions, but when it came down to it, it was really hard to let her do those things because I also needed to make those decisions, right? So, and maybe that was the nature of our partnership. I don't know, but ultimately it was really tricky to figure out how she could have the autonomy, but also I wanted it.
Yeah, no, you are not alone in that too. And when you build a brand that's built around you as a human being, it can be very difficult to release any control because it's the face of the brand is your face.
Yeah, and I think if it was like much bigger, like to the point where it was like a full, like huge brand, I think I would be much more comfortable doing that. But I think we weren't quite at the financial benchmark. I needed to be like, I want to pay you all this money to do it, even though I still wanted all this control over it. Mm-hmm. So it was, I don't know. I still don't know how to do it, but I'm at the point where I want to take things slower, do some more creative things myself, not hustle so much, because I ended up hustling so much to pay my team,
right,
rather than do things because I really wanted to do them.
Yeah. It's so interesting. And that the magic of like the royal wedding collection and the things that really come from your heart gets pushed down because you have to do other things in order to make the bottom line work and things like that. So yeah, it's tough. It's a tough spot to be in. And I want to make sure we talk about this television opportunity. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit briefly about what it's all about.
Yeah. So earlier this year, my family and we participated in an episode of a home renovation TV show. It's going to be on a streaming and cable network. And so we renovated 4 rooms of our home, our kitchen, the kitchen in our studio, which is down in the basement of my home, and my son's room and the staircase of our house. And I mean, it's one of those classic home renovation TV shows where it's like, it's done in like a very short amount. Like we had 3 months to take it from nothing, because we moved into this house like 2 years ago. There was literally nothing in the home. There were no bathrooms, no kitchen. Like we bought it stripped. So we've had to do a lot of work to this house. But once we signed the contract to do the show, it was like, oh, shoot, we got to make things happen. So we had a very short amount of time to make it happen. But what's cool about it is that I wanted to infuse it with a lot of my, like my mom and like the things I've taken away from my ancestry, really. And the show is about old homes. So, and what's cool about it is that the people who built our home was built in 1992. But it was modeled after one from the 1800s in this town called Nauvoo, Illinois, which is where a large portion of my church history comes from. So the house is like, the floor plan is similar to those that lived in Nauvoo. And I have family, like my great grandparents lived in Nauvoo. So it's kind of this full circle experience that I was able to tell on the show. And talking about my great grandmother, Patty Sessions, who was a midwife, who was a pioneer, crossed the plains, delivered babies, and the strength that I found from her, like knowing where she came from and where my house is designed from. So it was a really cool experience that I'm excited to see brought to life on this show.
Yeah, so we'll have to keep an eye out on your Instagram, where I'm sure you'll share all about it when it's ready to be aired. So that's exciting, and I look forward to watching it. And I also know you have a craft along going on that has a charity component. So maybe you can tell us about that before we get to your recommendations.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, we're in the midst of this. We call it the Lars Craft Along, and we started it last year. So last year we made like this nativity set. We brought on guests every week on Instagram Live to join me in painting this nativity set. And then this year we're doing these embroidered plush ornaments, where we have a technique for printing onto like a normal printer, onto fabric. So we print a picture of an ancestor or a family member and then embroider onto them. And it's been so fun. So yesterday I got to embroider on Instagram Live with Mary Engelbright, who is absolutely
oh my gosh, so cool.
So cool. And we just have wonderful embroidery artists. We have like a mix of celebrities and embroidery artists and crafters, and a couple contestants from Making It, the NBC show,
oh, sure, yeah,
who I love, Robert Maher and Amber from Damask Love. So it's been super fun, and we're trying to raise money for Nest, which is a nonprofit that supports women in the handmaker economy around the world. So those in America, but also those who've been affected in Ukraine and Afghanistan. We're trying to raise $5,000, and we can do that by direct donations to Nest, buying our ebook, which has the tutorial for these ornaments. And number 3, we're going to be auctioning off the ornaments that our guests are making at the end of this.
Oh, nice. That's lovely.
Yeah, it's been so fun.
Yeah, that's great. And I love collaborating with so many people and bringing lots of different people in to raise awareness for a charity. I think that's great through making. So people should definitely go check that out while it's still going on. And you have a couple of recommendations, and your first one is FAIRE, that's FAIRE magazine. And it's so funny because I had a guest not too long ago recommend the same magazine. So I definitely need to go check it out. I've never seen a copy.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's so funny. It's honestly exquisite. So I got to go to France in September for like a 40th birthday with my friend, who's an amazing tour guide who does tours to Paris. Her name is Eva Jorgensen. And we got to meet Ruth, who in Provence, where she lives, who started this magazine and is the editor of this magazine. And we've been online friends for years, but meeting her in person was like this joyous, amazing experience. she highlights the most amazing, incredible people in this magazine, and with beautiful photography. And it's like storytelling at its finest. Like, I haven't seen such a beautiful collection of makers. Like, I cannot speak highly enough about it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I am going to go get myself a copy because I have to see it. And then you also recommended some watercolors that you recently bought from, I think it's pronounced Marin Montague. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so he's this French artist in Paris, and he's a true delight. If you go follow him on Instagram, because he's this watercolor artist, and then he sells these little packs of watercolors in his beautiful shop in Paris. And it was this little travel watercolor set, and it's so beautiful. And I'm hoping it'll inspire me to start making soon because, like I said, I'm hopefully going to have more time to make things.
Yeah.
So that's my hope. So buying beautiful craft supplies and art supplies always invigorates the soul.
Oh, absolutely. And then you also wanted to recommend some scissors that you actually are producing now as part of your brand.
Yeah, so we got to do a partnership with Fiskars, the scissors and craft company, and it was a long time collaboration in the making, and we got to put a pattern onto the classic orange, scissors,
cool.
and also like design and make the blades are like a rose gold, and it has this floral pattern. And maybe it's so tacky to promote your own things, but scissors, I have this love affair with scissors, and the fact that I got to do this is like, I am so over the moon about it. And they're at like Joann and Michael's and everywhere, but it's like, honestly, maybe one of the coolest things I've got to do.
I was going to say, if that happens, you absolutely need to promote it. So I think that's great. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I really enjoyed talking to you.
You're so wonderful. Thank you so much, Abby, for having me.
And you've been listening to the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Today's episode was brought to you by June Cashmere. June Cashmere invites you to share in supporting Kyrgyzstan's shepherd families while experiencing the joy of making with their cashmere yarn. Create exquisite garments that are soft, warm, and lightweight in cashmere milled to last. Join June Cashmere's community of makers at junecashmere.com. Thank you so much, June Cashmere. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals. When you become a member of Craft Industry Alliance, you get in-depth coverage of craft industry news, the opportunity to connect with fellow professionals for advice and support, and access to an educational library filled with ideas, tools, and resources to help you as you build your business. Join us at craftindustrｙalliance.org. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.